that is exactly how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop.
See, I was wondering about that. Oh, hey, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the UnDisrupted Podcast. Yeah, discussing the greatest life questions and quandaries here, as usual.
Yeah, I'm glad I cleared that up for everybody, because they can take that information now and go with it. You're never going to hear that any other place. I'm glad you heard that exact number.
Yeah, I used to always think it was just 3 because that's what the commercial said, but you're right.
No.
Yeah, I won't say the number because I don't want to spoil it. Well, Adam, it's good to be back. And another thing I was thinking of the other day is, you and I had a lot of different jobs and roles in the tech directory field, and that meant buying quite a lot of things, trying different things out. There's a few items that maybe over the course of time, let's just say, didn't pan out. So today's opening debate: what's a piece of technology that you purchased that didn't quite live up to the hype? I've got a couple, but I'll let you start with this one.
Oh, personally, something that I got. I'm going to do 2 quick ones. Okay. I'm going to do one, a school related one. This was years ago before the Chromebooks. Microsoft had these things called cloud books or something, and they were supposed to be a web-based Windows machine. They were horrible. That and the netbooks, they just weren't ready for prime time yet. Yeah, they just weren't there yet.
Yeah.
But this is one thing that I got. Somebody told me, hey, I didn't have my car with the newer Apple AirPlay. It's supposed to be this little dongle thing that I could plug in, and all of a sudden it would convert my car to the Apple Play thing. Yeah. It doesn't work. No, it doesn't work. You can put this back on Temu or wherever the heck it's from. It was supposed to be so awesome on the little ad. I'm like, you know what? You got me. No, these CarPlay things do not work. Can't do it.
Temu, not a sponsor of the show, but they're welcome to be if they want to. This is not a Temu type of podcast. Well, those are interesting.
What about you?
I've seen a couple. The first I thought of originally was this thing called the Leap, which was a little bar. Do you remember that you could connect to your laptop and then you could use your hands to control the mouse? It was almost like the Kinect on an Xbox 360, but kind of mixed with the computer. And I remember one day someone came to my superintendent came into my office, and I was just going like this, and basically nothing was happening. I was trying to move windows and it wouldn't work. That one was just kind of bombed. The other one, though, that I loved and I did enjoy for quite a while, I still have it, and it is my Catchbox, which later on I think they get bought out or turned into another. They still have these. You go to conferences and they have those little balls that you can throw around. This is a box though, and it worked for the most part. It had some sort of technology.
Balls are soft, right?
Oh yeah, this is soft too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When it flies through the air, it doesn't somehow the sound. It doesn't hear the sound, and it would take a second to catch on. But then once you would speak into it, but the problem is people would look and it'd be like it's it was just weird. It's kind of gangly and weird. But I did use it in a hall of 700 freshmen when we were talking about the goods and bads of social media. And it was me and 700 freshmen, and all the teachers left, and I had them for an hour and a half, and I used this thing to kind of get their attention. But I will tell you, once I let it go into the wild, it was really hard to bring it back because everybody had a comment about something on social media, and then they wanted to hear themselves on the loudspeaker, and then they would just reveal everything.
I'm just asking you. I'm just asking the question that I know people are wondering. You did disinfect it after you got it back from that many freshmen, because where their hands have been, Lord knows. That's maybe how COVID started.
Well, it was actually white when I got it the first time. No. But speaking of social media and working with kids and all of that great stuff, let's invite up to the stage Director of Outreach and Common Media. It's Sue Thotz, everybody. Hey, Sue.
Thank you, Carl. Exactly. That's exactly the intro I want. I want to be associated with lots of germs, social media, and teenagers. Yes, by all means.
Different kind of viral. Okay.
My background is I am in public health, by the way. So yeah, I know all about it.
So what's your one? If you had a piece of technology, whether personally or professionally or something you think of that just didn't live up to the hype.
I will say I just got this. I'm putting my finger on it because it has some branding on it. But I got these wireless chargers. These things. My husband ended up picking one up. I don't know. I think he got it, from work or whatever. But I tend to put my phone on it and have an expectation that it will actually charge my phone, or actually, and for some reason you have to have it precisely on this little pad in a way that it is centered, and you have to make sure that the little bing, goes on. And I don't know, it ends up getting knocked.
Don't
and then
breathe.
The next morning I don't pick up. Yes. And I expect it to be charged, but it's not. It's not. It usually poops out, or somebody has knocked it off, or it just dies.
Your phone vibrates.
It has been a disappointment.
Yes. And when you get a text, I'm always in silent mode. Like, I haven't heard my ringtone in 7 years. And so when it vibrates, I'm sure it just takes it right off of that charger too.
Right off the side. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but
I had that happen to me too. I hate it.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my disappointment for the day.
Well, if that's the worst thing we have in life, then that's not so bad.
Exactly. I can't complain.
That is a first world problem.
Yes.
Sue, let's go ahead and hop into this real quick. So you're at Common Sense. Tell us, what is your role? What is it that you do there at Common Sense Education?
I'm sure many of you know the life of living at a nonprofit or working at a nonprofit is your role is many, many roles, right? You do lots of things.
Yes.
And my title is Director of Outreach. And so my team and we are in the luckiest position where we get to just help educators, right? I'm located in Los Angeles. We have folks in New York and Chicago and Omaha, Bay Area, San Francisco. And, our team gets to help people implement the common sense resources that are free, including the K-12 digital citizenship and digital literacy curriculum. And then a lot of the stuff around like parent workshops, and as well as really trying to help people understand how to integrate this content into their curriculum and into their systems. Or what does this look like in your advisory program? Or how do we get you resources to help you figure out how to communicate this out to your families? That's the kind of stuff that we are supposed to be doing. In reality, I end up sitting with a lot of folks just trying to, work with the media and talk about what is, social media, and how do kids really navigate this world, and as well as working with legislators, thinking about how cell phone bans might be part of what they're doing at a state level or at a district level or a county level. I work at a lot of conferences, which is my favorite thing. I love, that's where I know you all from, probably we probably met at a conference somewhere where we get to go out and share a lot of the work that we're doing at Common Sense, and, and try to help people find it.
I'm glad you mentioned cell phone bans, because I was just working with a group of educated leaders in Atlanta on Friday, and Adam's neck of the woods. Whoa, that's right. And it's interesting because right now I'm working on a new book that's a response to Jonathan Haidt's book called The Anxious Generation, which I'm sure you've heard about. And
I've heard about it.
Yeah. I've always been a big fan of I know this could be interesting. I've always been a big fan of what Common Sense brings to it, because again, even in the name, it's balanced. It makes common sense. With his book, and I don't want to spoil it, and whatever, people buy it, that's fine, and they'll do book studies on it. But I just feel like it's very simplistic in its approach, especially toward educators and parents. And so I'm trying to give a more expounded version of that in the writing that I'm doing now. What are your thoughts? What are your takeaways? I know you just mentioned states are starting to do statewide bans, whether it be middle school only or middle school, high school. There's no real right answer. I mean, I understand a teacher that's like, I'm just frustrated, I want to put away. That's real, right? Let's acknowledge that. But what do you feel like is the best approach to all that?
I think that when we're talking about cell phone bans at Common Sense, we are really trying to take a student-centered approach. I mean, that is the reason that these things are being talked about, I hope, is because people want to create a better learning environment for their students. That is what, where I hope this is all being driven from, is trying to create a healthy learning environment that includes understanding, student well-being, and how sometimes phones can, they do impact our well-being, right? When kids are so attached, when they are so distracted, when things like this happen, that's the kind of thing that people are concerned about, the issues that are being brought up by Jonathan Haidt. And, when it comes to teachers in that space and them being the police and, being an adversary all the time, they're spending their days trying to get their kids to put away their phone, that is problematic. And I do want to be able to support teachers. And I know you all do too, right? We're trying to create an environment where teachers aren't the bad guy. They got enough to worry about. And then the other thing is, I know families are very concerned about the safety of their kids, and how do we address those concerns from the parents and caregivers to help them understand that the purpose of this policy is to keep their kids safe and to give them a strong and healthy environment in which to learn. And so any cell phone policy that anybody is creating needs to be centered on like prioritizing that student well-being, allowing teachers to focus on instruction and have that positive relationship with students, as well as addressing those concerns from their parents and caregivers.
Awesome. I'm glad we recorded that, because I need that in my next response when someone says, I agree with you. It's putting the students first. If it's student centered and that's the heart of everything you're doing, and there's something right there, sometimes it might be harder to actually help them integrate it, but maybe that's the right thing to do. Not always is the easiest thing, the best thing to do. So I love that you have that response to it.
I think I've been looking at different ways that people have been implementing cell phone, device.
Policies, yeah.
I don't want to call it a ban, but yeah, policies and limitations on technology use, personal technology use in the classroom, and looking at ways that are working for people and ways that are not working. There's all different kinds of models. I mean, you've seen pouches, you've seen the technology that locks everything down. Yep. You've seen just shove it in your locker, shove it in your pocket, and what are the benefits and the challenges of each of these implementation models, and how are folks actually having, some success when it comes to reprioritizing that student space, but also the relationships that students have with each other, and being able to, to really, connect with each other. And I think that has been something that, is real, right? Where folks are saying, like, once we get rid of these phones, at lunchtime, kids actually talk to each other. I've heard this a number of times, right? And a lot of times the pushback is coming back from parents who are just like, I want to be able to get hold of my kid, right? I need to be able to communicate with my kid all day long.
Just in case,
Or they have a doctor's appointment this afternoon, or we need to coordinate after school stuff. Or, yes, like because of an emergency, I am very worried about not being able to talk to my kid. Yeah.
Yep.
It's so weird. It seems like we've been having this conversation for over 20 years about cell phones. Like we never properly addressed it at the beginning of of students with cell phones. I think our initial action was to take it away. Because I remember, when it's teaching, hey, if I see your phone, I'm going to take it from you. So our initial thing was to take it away versus building in and teaching responsible use of the technology. And so this has snowballed. So now we're dealing with the consequences of not having a clear plan of action when it first started in this space. It's like, you can't put this back into the jar. The toothpaste can't go back in. It's out now. How are we going to modify this, use this? Because as an adult, I'll be honest, I struggle at times with my own personal device. And I think we need to also address this. Yeah.
I just did this session yesterday. I was at a district yesterday doing a professional development for high school teachers, mandatory, right? Where everybody's got to go to this PD day. That's always the best audience.
Those are always fun. A captive audience.
Early teachers in a room, right? That's my favorite, actually, honestly. I did this session about kind of digital well-being. And, we talk about it as if it's something that students need. Students are addicted to their phones. Students are doing this. They spend too much time glued to their phones and scrolling and wasting time. But this session that I did yesterday was about us, right? It was about us as adults, and what are we struggling with, and what are my values? What are your values, and how does technology sometimes, help us to practice those values, and how does it sometimes hinder those values? And so we sat around in this room and we talked about what we really think is important in life, and how does that technology that we're using every day either amplify, those feelings and those ideas, or get in the way and keep us from doing the things that we think are really important. And so we went through some of these exercises that are in the Common Sense Digital Wellbeing, lesson collection. And I just did them with the teachers in the room and just tried to get them to recenter around how their technology use can sometimes make them feel disconnected or lonely, or not physically helping their physical health or their emotional health, right? So with all of this, it was we need to start with us, and how can we understand that ourselves? And it doesn't mean that we throw our phones out the window. It doesn't mean that we get rid of all the things that bring us joy. It's just an evaluation and a reflection about what we think is important. And then once we've kind of centered ourselves and we admit our own struggles or our own, the things that we're doing, I think it gives us that opening with kids about, the ways in which, we're struggling, they're struggling, we're all doing this, we're on the same team, right? We want to make our lives meaningful. We want to make our connections better. And if we can share kind of the strategies that we're trying to use, then we can share those with the students and walk through that together, I think that just makes a lot more sense. That's not us, like, shaming our kids about all the things that they're doing wrong, because we're doing that wrong too, right?
Shame ourselves.
Yeah.
I have the conversation with my kids, and I remember I told them, hey, if you ever see dad on his phone while he's driving, call me out, because I shouldn't be doing that. So call me out for that. We have a rule where no phones are allowed, technology at the dinner table, because we try to eat together as a family or whatever. But also if we're watching a TV show or spending family time, not to do those things. So I tell my kids, hey, if I'm in violation of those, call me out too. Because I will feel, I just like you guys, I'm trying to figure this out myself. I got bad habits I need to break. So call dad out. If dad's doing something that he said we shouldn't be doing, or we should try to, trim down our use at certain times. If you see I've been on my device for 30 minutes and it looks like I'm just watching TikTok videos, say, hey, dad, how long have you been on TikTok? Just ask me nicely. And I was like, oh, yeah, you know what? I fell down this rabbit hole. Let me get up out of here. Let me just take my phone away from me. I don't need it right now. My brain cells are dying.
And I think what you guys both mentioned is so important, and that's the reflection part of this, right? And I think that reflection brings awareness. And I think anytime you have the opportunity for the adults or kids to reflect on the use of it, and so I have a little activity I do when I do workshops on this too, and I'm going to do it with you two right now. This is coming, but I'm going to ask you the same question. So I always show a phone and I say, this phone can represent many things. It can represent good things and bad things. And so I always ask the audience, I go, what are some things about a phone that stresses you out? So I'll ask both of you this question. What is something that stresses you out when you think about your phone? Is there a part of your phone or something you do on your phone that adds stress to your life? Sue, what's one for you?
The unanswered email.
Yes. The red badge that gets bigger. I'm getting sweat and nervous thinking about it myself.
The guilt. The pit in my stomach that I feel.
Can't see there. It's not focused. I have 2,389 unread. So
stop. You are that's serial killer. Come on, man.
But you know what? I for me, it's unread text messages, because I get emails for anything, whatever. But if I have an unread text message, then that's like, oh my gosh, what did I miss? Because there's either it's an important conversation in the group chat. We're sending battle plans back and forth of the group chat, or we're having something going on with my cousin or mom, dad, whoever. If I miss the text message, that's when I'm like, oh my gosh, it gives me anxiety. Especially when I grab my phone after a while and I see it's like I'm 40 text messages behind. I'm like, oh, what did I miss? What happened in the world?
See, but then flip it on its head. Now, what are the things that bring you joy when you do something on your phone that brings you joy? Give us a couple of those. Sue, what you got?
I am a big fan of doing crossword puzzles and word games, and I do them with my husband. And I feel like, that's the family thing. His parents sent us their spelling bee and their word, right? Yep. Exactly. Right. And so it is a way for us to connect as a family. It's a way I feel like I'm smarter.
Yeah.
When I do these things.
I did the mini crossword in 1 minute today. I was like, oh, excited. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. Every day. That's the one I do every day is the mini. Yes.
My dad, when my dad was still alive, his Wordle, I always told him, I go every morning, because he did it at 6:45 pretty much on the dot, and he was a wordsmith, and every day when he'd send it to me, I said, Dad, you don't know this, but every time you send me that, I know that means that you're still alive. And actually, honest to God, when he quit talking, even at the end of his life, he still was doing his Wordle. In fact, the last 12 text messages I have, I haven't deleted them because I still remember him for that. And I'm like, look at all the Wordles he did right at the end. But not to get emotional, but Adam, how about you? Something that brings you joy?
I'm gonna be sappy, and since you went there,
oh boy,
no, it's my camera and photos app, because when I look at in the past, we've had photo albums, and where are those? In a basement, in a box someplace, and we don't look at family photos anymore. But now I have all my family memories on my phone, so I do find myself at times when I'm just waiting, killing time, I'll go through and look at my photos, because we have a gallery for each one of my kids, from literally pregnancy tests to now. And so,
grow up.
Yeah, awesome. I'm like, oh my gosh. And especially the ones that are this time last year or this time 5 years ago. And I see those things. For me, that brings me such joy to see that and to watch my family grow and the maturity and things that have happened. And, where I was this time last year, I was sharing with Carl in a text message. Yeah. Literally, this time last year, I had just lost all of my hair from chemotherapy. Yeah, so it was literally this time last year, I was coping with the fact that my hair was falling out. And now look at, cancer free at this point and all this thing. Then it hits me like, oh, wow. So for me, joy is seeing those, reflecting, and, knowing that I'm going to make more memories and new memories and be able to carry them on my wireless communication unit.
Right there in your pocket. No lugging an album necessary.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't even have photo albums on these walls back here. That's the weird thing. So the times have changed, that's for sure. Sue, I know you work with schools again all over around not just cell phones, but other things too. And one of the biggest topics, of course, in the last couple of years has been generative AI and the ethical use of it. And drink. Okay, we have to every time we mention it on the show. All right, because basically we made it 20 minutes. This is almost the best we've ever done, Adam. 20 minutes in the show before we mention the word. So what's common sense stance on this, and like again the expansion of digital citizenship really to include the ethical use of AI, which I think is a big part of what we're going to be doing going forward with our students, right? So give us kind of the lay of the land with common sense.
Yeah, I think I've been teaching digital citizenship with common sense for the last 13 years, right? And all the stuff related to privacy and relationships, communication, all the social emotional aspects of the way technology impacts us. It's all the same stuff, right? It's all the same topics. It's just now more powerful. So all of the content that we traditionally have talked about when it comes to digital citizenship or digital well-being, it is now all still applicable. It's just that now we are adding new tools to the mix. And so when I am talking to folks about AI literacy or about some of the content and the lessons that we've created around, for the purpose of exploring AI and its impact on our lives, they are just really trying to, one, understand what is AI, how is it trained, what are some of the risks inherent, what are some of the problems with it in terms of like bias, in terms of, misinformation and all of this, the same stuff that we all need to have an understanding of before we, have our students engage, before we engage in these powerful tools. We need to have a strong understanding of what it is and how it's trained and what are some of the risks around it. And then, now we're also talking about some additional things such as, when we talk about, the social emotional impact of chatbots, for example, right? We have a couple of lessons around what is a chatbot and is a chatbot a friend? Is one of the questions that we're asking kids. And I do this lesson. I just kind of give a scenario about a student with a relationship with this chatbot. And I ask adults whenever I'm doing some sort of professional learning, is this chatbot considered a friend? Like, what are the qualities of a friend? Is this resembling that? And 99% of adults are always like, nope, no way, not a friend, right? When you ask kids, man, it's a different story, right?
Wow.
They will tell you. I mean, I said I get about half and half with students identifying this chatbot as a friend, because a friend is somebody who, who is there for you. A friend is somebody who gives you, courage, gives you feedback, gives you, right? And so the question is this an empathetic two-way type relationship that you're getting? And then I think a lot of people are like, depends on how you, can this be trained to be empathetic? Can this be trained to give back to you? Can it be trained to be critical of some of the things that you might be doing that you need to be called out on? Is this a way for students to be able to get, non-judgmental practice? So I think, exploring these relationships and the social emotional ties that our students are feeling toward chatbots, right? Or any kind of AI tool, is something that we need to consider when, as adults, who are raising these kids, right?
Yeah,
right.
Is that the model of a healthy relationship that we want our students to have an understanding of? Or do we need to, center humans? And to me, I'm always like, yes, please center the humans, right? Your students have people in their lives that love them. I sure hope. And those people who love them are sometimes going to say no. They're sometimes going to be critical. They're going to tell you that you can't do something or that you're being a jerk or whatever. And I want our students to understand that is important. That is what makes us human. And that's the stuff of life. It isn't somebody who's always telling you that you're great and you're beautiful and all that stuff.
That's so interesting, because I saw this on, I think it was, I'm not going to say the carrier, but they had a commercial about their phone, and people were having a conversation with their phone saying, oh, how, what's going on? And it was a back and forth conversation. And I don't think people really understood how the deep ramifications of having a true bot having this interaction, friendship with the person. Like, so when I see that, I think about those risks to mental health for individuals or for privacy, because now this bot knows intimate details about you that your parents may not even know. I remember years and years ago, a man got really upset that his daughter got ads for pregnancy stuff from Target, and it was based on the search history because she actually was pregnant. So Target knew she was pregnant before the dad did, just based on the way the algorithm was feeding it. So all that being said, where do you stand? How do you feel about this? The balance of access to technology, all these resources, but also this privacy, mental health aspect that's out there that we need to be having a conversation about as well.
See, this is the stuff. These are the juicy conversations that I love having, and I love posing these to students and to teachers, and to, because part of this is like, I can't give super hard and fast rules about, generative AI is okay for this and not okay for this, and here are the privacy risks and here are the concerns. Like I think, right now things are moving so fast that you can't say this tool is safe or this tool is okay to use with kids. Like I'm very cautious about all of this because things are evolving so fast that's why I think we need to continually have conversations and re-examine this technology, on a regular basis, because we need to, it's just this moving thing that's going so fast that for us, I can't make like a guideline that says, this is where you draw the line, because that line is just going to move 5 seconds after I place it. And so these kind of conversations, I think we need to, it's almost like a moral center that we as educators and students need to kind of agree on and dance around and figure out where is it that we are pushing this. So when it comes to like something like privacy, I talked about this yesterday in my AI session, where I talked about the information. We were playing with the quick draw, the quick draw, right? It's so fun, right? I'm like, so fun. We're sitting here training this, this tool to understand doodles. I'm like, that's one thing. Now, how does that differ from like when we put in our words and ideas into something? Is it okay to put in doodles? Is it okay to put in our words and ideas and our personal information? Or, even if it's not like our PII, even if it's our thoughts and like, all of these things, is that okay? And so we're talking about this. And then I say, what happens to that information? How is it used to train a model? And then, how is all that information used to show you stuff back in your feed, right? How does it get used to personalize information that we're seeing on, the videos we see on YouTube, or the stuff in our social media feed, or the stuff in our news feed? And why is that problematic? These are the kinds of questions I want our teachers and our students to be able to have conversations about and evaluate whether we want to share all that information, or, is it good to just lock everything down and never put anything out about ourselves? What is the balance that we are trying to achieve when it comes to engaging in a tech-filled world? How does that benefit us? But how do we also entertain those risks and say, okay, everything that we're putting out, me sitting here talking to you guys, probably a little bit risky, right? We're going on here. Anybody can watch this stuff. But of course, the benefit to me is, of course, I get to, chat with you all. We get to share our thoughts and ideas, but everything has some sort of balance that we need to weigh out in terms of, what's risky and what's beneficial to us.
Yeah, because when I look at AI literacy, and I jokingly made this, and I'm like, oh, it does make sense. When you're using a tool, this is literacy to me. Understanding how to use a tool, but also how the tool is using you.
Yes.
Because if you're using this tool, you're getting some out of it, but how's the tool using you? If you have a clear understanding of that, I think you're pretty literate on a platform. Because you can say, okay, this is what I'm getting out of it, but I know what it's costing me to use this, whatever that is.
And I would say what I got out of that was, I know there's common sense media for kids, but I would love there to be common sense media for geriatrics. So I don't know if this is possible, but when my stepfather comes into my house, my stepfather-in-law comes in the house, he doesn't talk. And I'm like, what's the matter? He's like, that he points over to my Echo Dot. And he's like, it's listening to everything. I'm like, you're a retired police officer. Do you have like some sort of industry secrets that you're going to share? He's like, no, but it's always listening. And it's like, it's overcoming. And I guess some of this is what you're doing when you're working with teachers too, Sue, is that how do you help them overcome the fear? I mean, for me, technology is great. It's exciting and scary all at the same time, which is what I love about the field. But I know you probably encounter people that are just like, the front comes up like, nope, not going to use it. Well, proudly, I'll stay. I'm not on social media, like things like that. How do you, what's your kind of trick, or what's the technique you use maybe to overcome that with the staff?
Oh, I had some of those yesterday, of course. Like,
See?
this is not my problem.
Time.
I'm not on social media, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, but your kids are,
yeah.
right? Your kids are. And I think the joy of teaching this kind of content and having these conversations is, aren't you curious? Aren't you curious about your students and the way they think and the way they feel and their experiences, right? That helps you build relationships with your students. And it doesn't just benefit, their social emotional lives. It benefits your teaching ability if your student feels like you care about them. Like, that's the foundation here. And when you are able to pose a question to them about social media use. I mean, Carl, you said that when you were throwing that catch box around, everybody wanted to make a comment about social media. This is something kids will have endless thoughts and feelings about.
Absolutely.
And when you can get them to share their experiences, their ideas, their thoughts, their, anything, they have, an endless amount of information that's something that they can talk about, right? And they've something that they've experienced. And so you as a teacher get to listen in, and you're collecting this data about who they are in this world that you may not be privy to. And so it's fascinating. I find it endlessly fascinating. And I hope that most teachers, even if I don't understand it, even if I'm not involved in social media, and if I don't know it, you still have to care about your kids and the things that they are engaged in and the ways in which they learn and what they find fascinating. And I mean, that's just it's a huge gateway. It's an enormous gateway that's just open. And all you got to do is ask and set up the right questions. And you can't go in there as a judgmental fist, finger wagger and say, you are a terrible person and you need to spend all your, get off your phone and spend some time doing math, right? Or, spend time writing instead. It can't be that way, or else, nobody wants to listen to you, right? You have to encourage the understanding between the two of you. And this is just an easy way to do it.
I love it.
So last question for you. I've enjoyed having you on the show. We need to have our own show. We just do this, a lot. Yeah.
The judgmental finger wagging to me is like the one. We had to have a whole show just about Gen Alpha language too, because we didn't even get into that. Like when they start telling you you're mid or you're cooking, your shirt cooks or whatever it is.
Yeah. Hey, my daughter said, "Oh, Dad, that outfit you ate," and I'm like, "No crumbs, baby." She said, "Don't say no crumbs, Daddy." I'm like, "Hey." But I digress.
Cringe.
Yes. You gotta be you. You gotta be you. Yes. You can't be anybody else. Yes.
So with all this going on right now, and everything going on in the world, we ask all of our guests, what is something that you do to keep yourself undisrupted?
This is an easy one for me because I feel like, you mentioned earlier what brings me joy on my phone and what brings me joy in the world. And, I could easily say my family or, anything, right? My kids make me happy. Everybody makes me happy. Doing this job makes me happy. I like people. I don't know if you can tell. But
we could tell.
I'm always a bird fan. And no matter where I go, there's always a bird somewhere. And anytime you're walking outside, like, this morning it is disruptive in this sense. I know you're talking about undisrupted, but something will catch my ear, right? Or something will catch my eye. And it is a way for me to ground myself in an understanding of the world, that is out there and that is beyond me, right? I'm always fascinated because there's birds everywhere. And they are a reminder of like, just be in this moment, watch this bird, enjoy these colors, listen to this sound, connect to your father and your grandmother who are also birders and, share this with your kids. Like, yeah. I was in Palm Springs this week and I heard a bird I'd never heard before. And I pulled out my app and I said, hey, what bird is this? Right. My Merlin app. And it told me about this bird and I saw it and I found it. And it was this gorgeous little verdin that I'd never seen before. And it's a new discovery. It's just a new discovery that you get to have walking around on the street of Palm Springs or the juncos that are, in the bushes on my morning walk this morning in downtown Los Angeles. It is just a way for you, no matter where you are, just to reground yourself in some way. And the app, the technology does that too. It helps you, right, in a way. But at the same time, it's also a way to connect with other people. Like, guess what I saw this morning, right? Or, or take that moment for yourself.
That's a perfect connection of everything too, because I just actually literally last week gave my mom a thing called Birdify, which is a AI smart bird feeder that when a bird lands on it, it'll actually take a picture and it'll identify the bird and then send her an alert to her phone and she could watch it live eating on her little bird feeder. And I was just looking and she literally, like in the last 10 minutes, sent me a giant squirrel that was eating the bird feed out of her thing. But hey, technology, AI, but also life and play. She's the same way. She's a birder. I guess that's what you call yourselves, birders?
I'm a birder, yes.
There we go. Okay. Where can people find out more about you, Sue, and all the great work you're doing? Tell our listeners out there where they can find out more about you.
So certainly, I encourage everybody to go to commonsense.org and find content for themselves. It's all free and available at commonsense.org/education. That's where all of our lesson plans are and our resources for teachers around media and technology and kids. And then I myself, I think LinkedIn is my current fave. So by all means, come find me on LinkedIn at SUETHOTZ. That is my name. And that would probably be the best way.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us. And for our listeners out there, be sure to subscribe and give us a review. We'd appreciate it. We might even give you a shout out on a future show because we're on Spotify, we're on the Apple Podcast, all the other stuff, right, Adam? This has been the UnDisrupted Podcast, brought to you by All for Ed. He's Adam, and you can follow him at AskAdam3.
And he's Carl, and you can follow him at Your Tech on all social media platforms. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, we are better together.
And we are better
UnDisrupted.